welcome to We're Not Wizards. We are the best, but not wizards. Enjoy the show!
Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for May. It's May. And we could do a Star Wars joke because everybody is May the 4th, but I don't even know when this thing's going to be released. I don't even know. I have no idea. In the future, I do hear a call. I don't know if it's a call to adventure. I have no idea. All I know is if I get too far down the line, there might be some kind of boss battle, but I don't want to overemphasize that. I really don't want to kind of overboss the situation. So I thought I'd get maybe a bit smart, get a bit wise, to get a bit Brotherwise. So I decided I needed to speak to somebody from Brotherwise Games. So I've got Jillian Ross joining me, who literally makes sure that you hear about everything that's going on in the Brotherwise universe. Is that correct? Hello.
Hello. That was amazing. I wish I was that creative because I need to get into poems and lyric writing. I feel like the Brotherwise team would really love something like that for an email going out.
I think the problem like that is when you start doing it, and the reason that I just do it completely off the cuff, if you spend time doing it, you end up writing stuff down, and then you end up going, oh, this is rubbish, and then you scratch it out. So if I do it at the top, and if it sounds rubbish, then everybody's just going to have to power through. I mean, they can always fast forward it if they don't like it. I mean, it's not like they're forced to to listen to me talking at all. I mean, let's face it. How are you doing? Are you well?
I'm good. It's finally warmer weather over here. I mean, I'm wearing a turtleneck right now, but it's at least in the 60s, 60-degree Fahrenheit here. So
right, we have to check.
Nice.
Wait, no, you can't say 60 degrees Fahrenheit because I've got to check how much that is. And right, let me just check. This is a live check because I think America still seems to be the only place that uses Fahrenheit.
Yes.
And I have no idea. Right, Fahrenheit to Celsius, 60 degrees. That's 15 degrees. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's great weather here, and we're gearing up for a lot of fun stuff this summer, both personally and with Brotherwise. So I'm finally excited for warm weather.
I'm gonna I mean, what we like to do in the show is we like to have a look back at the past, have a quick chat about the present, and then we have a look into the distant future. I want to start with yourself. We can talk about Brotherwise. We could get Johnny can come on at whatever time and he can talk about Brotherwise or whatever. But because you've not been with Brotherwise how long have you been with them now? You've not been with them
just 3 months.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Time flies, but it seems forever and very short at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Was that your first kind of foray into tabletop? I mean, where were you before?
So I actually started in the tabletop industry in technically 2019.
Okay.
My brother Clay owns Capstone.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so I started working with him back in the fall of 2019, right before I graduated college. I was on my last internship, but it was more of a kind of apprenticeship, so I wasn't getting paid. And he was like, well, you can get paid by just, doing shipments and working on customer service things. And then I graduated during the pandemic, and
wow.
I graduated with a fashion design degree, and nobody really was buying clothes at the height of the pandemic in May 2020.
Sitting about in like a sleeping bag and the same jacket they've worn for like the last 3 years. It's like, That was the thing. I had a dog, which
Yeah.
meant my shoes were getting worn down to like nubs.
Yeah.
But the rest of my clothes, I just like went, do I really need to change this week? I can just get
No.
away with it. I can just spray on deodorant. And I'm not going anywhere, so that was fine. In terms of the fashion stuff, so obviously there's different levels. So was it just like was it actual fashion design? Was it part of manufacturing stuff? Because I know, because everybody goes, oh, you work in fashion. It's like, yeah, I kind of make sure stuff gets from one place to another, or I make sure that there's enough cloth to kind of make the stuff. Or so what kind of stuff were you actually in the design kind of side of things?
Yeah, so I was in the design side of things. So at my college specifically, you could do like product development, which is the more like project managing side of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I chose the design side, and during my time at college, I did I think 5 internships, including the
Wow.
apprenticeship. So um, got a lot of experience with that. But like I said, graduating in May 2020, nobody was buying clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any job prospects at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started working at a smoothie shop during the pandemic just because it was the only thing hiring local to us.
Mm-hmm.
And after about a couple of months, Clay reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I know that you do graphic design stuff on the side. Would you want to do like any print ads for me?" And then
Mm-hmm.
it just fell from there. And then he's like, "Actually, I need somebody for marketing, and then
Wow.
actually, I need somebody for sales." So I was doing a little bit of everything at Capstone, but I wanted to focus on design afterwards. After kind of getting out of the pandemic, I know we're still technically in it, but
Yeah.
after the vaccines came out, I was like, okay, things are kind of starting to ramp up in the design world again. I want to try that out,
Mm-hmm.
and went to a marketing and design agency for the past year. Ended up not loving it and absolutely missing the tabletop industry. So now I'm back, and you all can't get rid of me.
So, do you get? I mean, is it kind of strange? Is it a kind of like a kind of a Janus kind of flip side kind of coin thing? Is that you've taken a hobby that you were enjoying and turned it into a job? And are
Mhm.
you now kind of designing clothes on the side? Do you still kind of keep your hand in it and kind of occasionally get the sketchbook out and go, yeah, this tank top's going to look amazing. Just do this. I mean, has it
Yeah.
become something that, because I can imagine that you don't want to kind of, you have that education and, that qualification behind you. So I'm guessing that it's something that you kind of want to keep a kind of a
Mhm.
hand in. You obviously have an interest in it from, which is probably one of the reasons that you went to college in the first place.
Yeah. There was actually quite a long time. For a couple of months, I was feeling super guilty
Mm-hmm.
when I started at Brotherwise because I was like, I'm not utilizing my degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned that after burnout, like it was just creative burnout and then just not enjoying myself in the fashion industry were two separate things I was dealing with before starting at Brotherwise.
Yeah.
And I was like feeling guilty for not using my fashion degree. And I was like, well, I can just do this on the side and be happy with what I'm doing. So, like, for example, right now I'm working on like tailoring my clothes
Mm-hmm.
just for fun,
Mm-hmm.
or like buying clothes at thrift stores and like making sure that they fit me, or just like adding like a personal detail to it. Just stuff like that. Or just tailoring my friend's clothes. I've offered a friend to make her like a nice little corset or a belt for the Ren Fair that she's going to. So just small little projects like that. I don't want to make it into a big thing and ultimately lose my love for it.
I was going to imagine it's like, again, flipping it on its head. Are you going to start like a YouTube channel where you review clothes? And is it going to be like, I mean, is there Facebook groups that are kind of like fashion reviewers and media kind of groups that you have to go in and say, hey, I'm looking at, I would like to review this, or I'd like to help you design this. I'm just wondering if there's like that kind of, because there's bound to be people who, like, well, you can see them all the time on kind of like on Twitter and well, probably more kind of TikTok and Instagram kind of going, I got this new set of clothes from this place, you can buy it with this discount. And I'm wondering, the tabletop industry probably isn't much different from people who get involved in kind of like a hobby and media basis, and there probably is all the same kind of struggles kind of going on. So have you ventured into kind of thinking, actually, the next time I go to like a con, I might consider kind of doing a little kind of cosplay type thing, not like a full big costume, but just kind of like, I'm gonna take along some stuff and kind of pimp it out a bit to kind of keep in my line with the kind of the Brotherwise brand then?
I was thinking about it. So there's like so many different levels of cosplay, and I'm the type of person where it's going to be really hard for me to do just like closet cosplay, which is just like grabbing things out of your closet that look similar to the character.
Yeah.
I want to go all out all the time. So I feel like if I were to ever get into cosplay, um I would probably spend a little bit too much time into it and getting into those nitty-gritty details. So, I don't know. It really depends.
So you're not going to be like, if you're taking like say the Call to Adventure box, it's like you wouldn't be the person with the cape and the lantern. You'd literally be the dragon on the front of the box. That's kind of where you would take this kind of thing. It's like, no, I'm
Yes.
not obsessed with this particular kind of thing at all. I take it, is the fashion industry as kind of cutthroat and horrible as Meryl Streep made it out to be in The Devil
Yes.
Wears Prada? Because I mean, that I kind of, there's two films. I think one of them's Bridesmaids, and I've actually counted up the number of times I've seen Bridesmaids, and I've seen Bridesmaids more than I've seen The Empire Strikes Back now. Because it's one of those films that whenever it's on, I just watch it. And it's the same kind of it's the same with The Devil Wears Prada. There's a lot of really, I don't know. It's just one of these things, if I see it, it's like there's little clips that seem to float about kind of the internet. And I kind of like kind of how Meryl Streep's character kind of looks kind of like in that. As kind of like the powerful, I just wondering, you're absolutely horrible at the same time. You're absolutely horrible. And I'm just wondering, from that perspective, was Meryl method acting in that film, or was she kind of pretty much kind of close to how it kind of is?
It's pretty accurate. I mean, yeah, there's like some dramatization to it, but I worked in a design house in New York at my first internship.
Wow.
And it's not like, I don't know, it's very stigmatized for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I specifically remember the design house that I worked for, the CEO or the owner of it, and I'm scared to say the name because I don't want this to bite me in the butt. No. But I remember during my first internship, we were staying late and we ordered Chipotle because we were hand sewing shoulder pads into a blazer, and it was like 11 p.m. Chipotle was the only thing open.
Wow.
The owner of the design house walks in and she goes, "What are you eating?" And we were like, "Chipotle." And she's like, "I've literally never heard of that." And like, mind you, this is not when Chipotle is new. This is in like 2016, 2017.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, it's just like build your own Mexican food bowl type of thing." And she was like, "It looks disgusting," and then just like walked out. And we were like, "Okay." I don't know what to do with that information, but
I think
okay.
I think in that situation, what you do is you take, knowing that you were on an internship and it was going to be a limited amount of time, you take some of that and you kind of hide it in kind of like the ceiling gaps, the spaces. You push one of the tiles to one side, and then you just stick a whole pile of it on the top. And then in 6 months' time, they'll definitely know.
They'll definitely know what Chipotle is.
and surprisingly enough, it will be disgusting. At the kind of the same time. But you're quite obviously then you went from Cap. So was it strange kind of working for your brother then?
Yeah. So it was definitely different because Clay is he's almost 10 years older than me.
Wow.
Uh, so I've always looked up to him as the older brother who's super cool.
Physically as well, I guess.
Yeah, physically as well, because he's also like we're both tall people, but
Yeah.
he's a tall guy. He's like 6'3" or
Wow.
something. And so yes, I was quite literally physically looking up to him too, but just like working with him and seeing him in this like new light and new world was like really cool.
Yeah.
And he was just like super supportive in a lot of things that I did, and I had a blast working for him, and it was really fun. So yeah, I'll always speak highly of him, even though we had disagreements at time, but it was brother sister disagreements.
Did he ever threaten when things got a bit serious? He says like, that's it, I'm calling the parents.
No, because we have an inside joke with our family that my dad is like such a businessman that he was like, I think dad would always have my back if I called him. So I was like, okay, whatever, we can just figure it out
Imagine it's like
ourselves.
you call dad. You call him. Let's see how this kind of let's see how this kind of figures out. But it must have been interesting seeing Clay with kind of like the business head and kind of, not mucking about or, like saying, all right, well, we're going to print this. I've got to get this organized. I've got to kind of get that kind of files organized. At the same time, I guess, see, with Clay being obviously involved in the board game space, did that mean that your exposure to playing kind of games themselves, was that always something that was kind of there? Was tabletop always kind of in the background, or is it something that you've relatively kind of newly kind of dipped into?
Yeah, we've always been into board games. I mean, some of my earliest memories so I have 3 older brothers. With my brothers is we would play Legos and have our own like Lego squares, and we'd create our own like board games on our spaces and like pitch them to each other, weirdly enough. And so we've always been really into gaming, whether it's video games or whether it's D&D or just anything quote unquote geeky in general. So it's always been a part of my life, but it really rocked my world when Clay started Capstone, because that's when he introduced us to like Catan and just like Carcassonne and just those gateway games. And I was like, wow, this is so much different than the Game of Life or like Mousetrap or whatever we were playing as kids. And I just fell in love with it ever since that. I mean, I think it was like 2013-ish when he started introducing us to those types of games.
Wow.
So ever since then, I've been really into it.
That's like a reasonable time, but as time goes on, because I keep forgetting that I was like 2030. It's like I started the show. The show's like 7 years old now. 1 to 8 years. So I'm thinking, well, actually, that's not that long ago. To be perfect, that's not 2016 is not that, and 2013 is not kind of even that long ago, kind of as well. So you worked with Clay for a while, and then so how did the opportunity at Brotherwise kind of come up?
So I quit my job at the marketing and design agency back in November 2022. Was seriously unhappy there, and I just was like, okay, I cannot work here at all. I don't even have a prospect yet. I'm just going to start applying for jobs. So I knew that I wanted to be back in the tabletop industry, and I put out a tweet, I think late November-ish, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a marketing, design, customer service job. In the tabletop industry. Does anybody have any leads? And then my good friend Maddie, who is the community manager for Brotherwise and like 90 other publishers, he was like, he let me know that Brotherwise was hiring, and
Yeah.
I was on like third or fourth round interviews with a couple of other places. And I only had one interview with Johnny from Brotherwise, and I was like, this is it. Like, I just know that I want to work for this company,
Yeah.
even though I've had like 4 or 5 interviews with a couple of other companies. Like, this is the job that I want. And then I got an offer from Johnny a couple days later,
Wow.
and all history from there.
Because that's the thing with I've not looked for jobs in kind of years. I mean, I generally I kind of stay with places. The last place I'm been the same place for like 11 years, and I'm probably going to die there. I mean, let's face it, I'm getting to that point where I am kind of getting to that stage where I'm just going to be, I'm kind of institutionalized. I wouldn't know how to work anywhere else. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, the thing that always surprises me about looking for jobs nowadays is they never actually tell you how much they're going to pay you.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what do you want me to
Yeah.
do? What are you going to do? You want me to come along because I like? I'm looking.
Because I like working? No. Who likes working?
This is how it works. I have skill. I feel like Liam Neeson. I have a very particular set of skills. you know, and I will come. I will find you, and I will come to work for you. But I need cold, hard cash to do it, because if I go to the bank and say, I'd love to pay my mortgage this month, but I don't actually know how much I'm going to get paid, because when I went for the job, they didn't actually tell me how much the salary was going to be. So you're just going to have to bear with me until I might get the right amount of money. I might not. So that always kind of surprised. It's kind of like, and also, did you, when you were going through, I know it's been like, it's obviously been only like six months or something like that, probably since you started the process. Do they make you go through like 3 or 4 job interviews now before they actually even tell you if they kind of?
Yeah. So 2 companies. Yeah. So like one company, I went through, I think, 5 interviews. And one of them, well, it was like an interview day. So I did 2 interviews,
Wow.
one with a recruiter, one with the person that would be my boss. And then I did an interview day, which took about 4.5 hours, where I was interviewed by a lot of different people. And then I had another interview, and then I had final interview, and they were calling all of my references. So yeah, I was very tired at that point, and I was like, well, if you didn't know that
Yeah.
if you didn't want me, or like if you do want me, then why are we going through this still? Like, it's a little bit crazy.
I'm not being funny, but I know people that have gone like on 5 dates and ended up moving in with somebody. So if it's like, if you can't tell after like 5 interviews,
Right.
whether or not that person's kind of like, I'm just like, and then we have the second interview, and then we have the third stage interview, then we have let me stop you there.
Yeah. And it's like you have to do like a project sometimes, and like submit paperwork, and like do this reference dance, and I'm just like,
I have a very,
guys.
very small social battery, and my interview battery is even smaller. It's like
Yep.
it's like when you go out to like get a game night, and it's like you get like 3 or 4 hours of solid kind of, hey, how you doing, kind of thing. And then by the end of the night, I come home and I'm like, oh, I'm socially exhausted. It's the same. My interview battery is even smaller. So
Yes.
so the first one I'd be, yes, I am obviously highly motivated, and I can work as well as a team as kind of by myself, and I'm a big kind of problem solver. I love. So sometimes I go into other companies and just find their problems and solve them for them, just because I'm just that kind of thing. But the second interview, if it's like the second or third interview, I'd be like just going, what?
Yeah. Like, what more do you need to know?
What do you want from me? And I think now probably what I'd do is I'd just say, look, listen to these 5 episodes of this podcast I do. If you don't think, and there's no way, I think that would probably be a bad thing. I think if anybody kind of listened to this show and they went, no, he's not getting a job, he's just an idiot. He's just an idiot. He'd be constantly trying to be amusing and entertaining. When you started at Brotherwise, was the kind of the job defined, or was it a case that or did they kind of build the role more around you, coming from, again, kind of from the the design kind of background and knowing what you'd done with clay and stuff like that, was it a case that they went, actually, could you do this as well as this, as well as this kind of thing?
It was pretty defined when I got offered the job, because they were specifically looking. So my job title is marketing designer, because they were specifically looking for somebody who can do marketing and graphic design for like magazine ads and all of that. So it was pretty, their job description for it was like pretty detailed too. And I was like, this weirdly fits my exact niche as a human being. So I feel like I'm perfect for this job. And then it just like, it worked out from there. But Johnny and Chris are great. Like, I think, I know it's only been like 3 months ish, but I gotta say that they are very genuine guys, and they root for me to like grow even more than I already have. So I've really enjoyed them as bosses so far, and I would say that they're one of the best people that I've worked for ever. So very happy with them so far.
How have things changed with your involvement with the kind of the tabletop kind of community? Because I can imagine you're like the kid that brings kind of like the Nintendo to school on the bring the games to school day. You know, that all of a sudden you know everybody kind of wants to be kind of like your best friend. Because I know, I mean, I'm aware of the kind of like the Brotherwise kind of titles, especially Boss Monster, because Boss Monster is for sale in like a really big book chain in the UK. And I remember looking at it and going, that's very close to what Nintendo make. Because I looked at the box of it. That's very. I'm surprised that Shigeru Miyamoto hasn't kind of sent you. They've not been in kind of contact about how close that looks.
No comment.
I know. But I mean, that was. But at the same time, it was one of the first things that struck me about the kind of the game itself, was it made you kind of pick it up and kind of have a look at it and kind of go through it. But was it kind of what was it like kind of entering into the space where it is very kind of hands-on and there's a lot of communication going on, and there's kind of like there's a mixture between, there's fewer people that do the media stuff on a professional basis, and there's a lot more people that do it on kind of like almost like a semi-professional, almost amateur basis. So what was it like being kind of, I guess, kind of put into that kind of situation?
Yeah, so luckily, so when I first started at Capstone, like there was a bunch of new things that I had to learn, specifically because the community is very niche, and there's a lot of different things going on at all times, and it's very fast paced. I mean, the fashion industry was pretty fast paced, but tabletop is just as fast paced, with as many products coming out, as many podcasts there are, as many content creators there are, as many marketers there are. There's a bunch of people to know in the industry. Luckily, I had Danny Lowe, who was working at Pandasaurus at the time. She used to live in Columbus, which is where I live in Ohio. And she met up with me, and she and I talked for about 2 hours. Well, it was more me talking her ear off with all my concerns, and she just sat and listened. But she really helped me out and get a start in the industry, and form those relationships with a bunch of different people, and helped me through that. So I do owe a lot to her, and like thank her like almost every single day for that. But yeah, she helped me out a lot with getting introduced to it.
Is she now working? Is it Hashi? Is she now working
It's
for
Hachette? Yeah.
Hachette? Yeah, she's working for them on the US version. Because I
Yes.
know the general manager of the UK, Hashi.
Oh, nice.
But
Awesome.
so that's kind of cool. So what's your job? I mean, how involved with the community are you kind of now then?
I'm pretty involved. Like I do all media relations, like You said you got that email from me earlier today about like press
I'm not allowed
relations
to
and
talk
whatnot.
about that email.
Yeah.
You can't
Super
say
secret, top
there
secret
was no
email.
email.
Yeah.
In fact, I opened up no browser, and there was no email. Definitely didn't open any Gmail. It was what's red and
No.
invisible, no Gmail. There wasn't an email. We're not going to speak about it because you kind of put me in the situation because people are going to say, well, what was the email about? And it's like, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. It's not going to happen.
It was just an email and it just said hi, smiley face. That's all.
It was in Comic Sans. I was a bit
Yeah.
disappointed, to be honest, in the design choice, if I'm being perfectly
Yeah.
honest with you.
That's fine. I gotta send in my resignation letter now.
You would if we told them what was in that email, but we're not going to do that. But you're kind of, so you're saying you're communicating. So do you deal with the kind of the various media partners as well as kind of like, are you dealing with kind of like any kind of the kind of the actual gamers, the players as well? Or is it mostly the media?
Yeah. So I don't I'm not very community focused within, the customer service related side. Maddie actually does that.
Mm.
But I'm trying to get our Discord more active at the moment. Brotherwise started a Discord before I started, and I think right now we're at like almost 400 people, but when I started back in January there was only like 70 people in it. So building it up and trying to be community managed and focused there, but not on the, customer service side
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah. Discord, I think everybody opened up a Discord during the pandemic, and I think it's like one
Yeah.
of these things where there's probably several trillion gigabytes of bandwidth
Mhm.
being used up by lonely little
Yes.
Discord channels where somebody went, I'm going to set up a Discord channel. And then I think
Yes.
during the first 3 months of lockdown, I don't think anybody did any work because everybody was going
Mm-mm.
into the various Discord channels and went, have you seen this? Have you seen this cat that looks like Jared Leto in the Joker? Being very funny. And I think, but it's kind of it is definitely kind of keeping it going. And I know that I've seen the work that you were involved with, where you did Boss Monster, the
Mhm.
Boss Monster competition about who was
Oh, yeah,
most
yeah,
likely to
yeah.
work, who was most likely to kind of win in a fight. So when you're doing something like that, do you have like a list of a pad of ideas that you've written out and said, well, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that? Because I think once you get
Mhm.
Discord to a certain level, it starts to usually kind of take care of itself, I think. But I think it's kind of getting it to that
Mhm.
level, which is always the tricky thing.
Yeah. So, as for the pad of ideas, I wish I could share with you my crazy Excel spreadsheet of ideas, because it's like that meme from It's Always Sunny where Charlie's like posting at the board. Like, that's how I feel every time. And like, I forget that other people in Brotherwise can look at it at literally any time. And I was actually in our marketing meeting with Matt and Johnny
Mm.
yesterday, and on one of the days I like wrote out this idea, and I was like, probably don't post though. And Johnny was like, why did you put that there? I was like, oh, I don't know. It's just a little note just in case. He was like, okay. I love the attention to detail there.
It's just because I put an idea down. It's like I'm not putting the idea down because it's a good idea. I'm putting the idea down because there is a point I'll be struggling for ideas, and if I keep all the ideas in my head, there's potentiality that I'll just go, oh my goodness, I'll just use this one. What's your favorite way of stealing out your local shop kind of thing? If you were treating it like a dungeon, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna get fired now.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to kind of get, I mean, it's kind of difficult to kind of get the ideas. As I say, I think off the back of that, we're in a funny time with, I think, kind of communication, because I think there's the whole kind of Mel and Tusk and his amazing Twitter kind of going on. The
Mhm.
guy's just like, I don't know, like let's make everybody pay for everything, lets everybody pay per tweet.
Yeah.
And then I think and then some people have like moved away. So that I think in general communication's been a kind of bit fractured. I'm a member of some really, really lovely kind of Discord communities that you go in again and again and again, and you're always kind of chatting away with people, and it's kind of pretty kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of then you managing relationships with kind of content creators and stuff like this,
Mm-hmm.
is that something you've just started doing? Do you have to build up a list? I can imagine that a list of content creators in relation to board games is literally like, it's a big scroll down an Excel spreadsheet. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
huge.
Yeah. It's really a lot. And I try to, with how many people are out there, I try to give everybody equal attention, because like obviously there's like the big hitters out there who have been around forever, like Watch It Played, and I'm like, would love to do a sponsored video with you, but I also want to send this to, you know, just somebody who started out, because you never know when they're going to get their big break and become the next big name. So but yes, I was lucky at both Capstone and Brotherwise that they had a pre-built list. But when I started, I put out a tweet on the Brotherwise account, and I think on Instagram story or something, asking if people wanted to sign up for our content creation list in case they already haven't. And we actually got quite a few people sign up for that, adding to our forever long list. And I started to build relationships with them too, people that I haven't worked with specifically at Capstone. So there is a lot of mental fortitude I think you need to keep up with everybody. Um, and but the thing is, I love it though, because you get to just meet all these different people and talk to them about board games, which I can't complain about too much because it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Is there a way? See, this is because normally normally when I'm speaking to people, they've designed the game,
Mhm.
and I do speak. It's very occasionally I speak to kind of people like yourself who are out there, kind of like building the relationships. So,
Mhm.
do you have kind of like certain? I mean, you have a list of people that we need to get these out, and I appreciate, you've got your kind of like your Watch It Played. You got your Watch It Played crew. You've got guys like
Mhm.
Rado out there. You've got the Dice
Mhm.
Tower. People like
Mhm.
that they kind of they kind of go ahead, and you kind of say, well, we've got to give you something because we know that it'll hit other people. But
Mhm.
is there a general criteria that you kind of look for or work towards? Because I go on the Board Game Media and reviewers group, and I see a lot of
Mhm.
people kind of saying, oh, well, we do Instagram photos, and I'm
Mhm.
wondering where that kind of sticks in, kind of like, is somebody who's, because Instagram's it's oh my goodness, is that why they called it Instagram? It's very instant, but it's not very kind of, you can disappear. I mean, a post will be there for so long, and a post can be very, very popular, but unless you scroll
Mhm.
back through somebody's kind of feed, I could post, about, here's some amazing kind of stuff about Call to Adventure. But then
Mhm.
next week, unless you were following me, you'd probably kind of find out going. So when you're looking for people covering your games, do you look at things like how permanent kind of like the content
Mhm.
kind of is, whether it's like a video
Yeah.
or written content or stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. Because like the new hype, or like the newish hype right now, is Twitch streams,
Mm,
which, from a marketing and publisher perspective, it's difficult to push money that way because it's so temporary unless they upload the videos to YouTube.
yeah,
But the thing with Twitch is, the communities there amazing. Like
yeah,
the instant interactions, instant questions answered. just interacting with people who might not be super familiar with your games and being able to talk to them about it right then and there.
Yeah.
Super cool. Unless VODs are uploaded to YouTube, it's just very temporary though. So it's kind of like high risk, high reward there.
Yeah.
But usually it has worked for us. But for other things like written and Instagram, it's kind of the same with like overview videos, unless you're directly linking them onto your product page. Usually people will only see it for a certain amount of time, unless it's a how to play video or rules instruction.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people want kind of like a how to play video. I mean, I must admit, there's people who reviews I watch because I guaranteed they get grumpy about a game. And you know who you are. But it's like,
Yeah.
I've actually shown it to a couple of my kids and went, look how grumpy this person gets about this game. Let's look at the chapter reminders and go, and here's the positives, 2 minutes, and here's all the things I don't like, hour and a half. And
Yeah.
and it kind of, it's like good fun, because it's like, why are you playing? Why are you involved in a hobby you clearly don't like? But that's another question altogether.
Yes.
But yeah, Twitch. I think, in all honesty, I don't think Twitch would have become as big in the board gaming side of things if it wasn't for the pandemic. Because I remember round about and I even remember writing about this, is that what happened during the pandemic is nobody could get out. Everybody was stuck indoors. So then there was people playing like lots and lots of kind of roll and writes. I remember, I think it was Suzanne Sheldon, running basically, here's a whole load of roll and write kind of stuff. There was a lot of, like, they did the salt and sass kind of stuff. I remember them doing a lot of Twitch streams. I remember Ross at More Games Please, before he joined, I think it's North Star he's at, but he was doing kind of like regular kind of streams with kind of, again, it was kind of like roll and writes. I remember Monique, they were doing kind of, again, it was kind of like, let's do kind of like big roll and write sessions. But do I watch Twitch stuff now? I don't watch it as much as I used to, and that's across the board. But then I guess the other side of it is I'm kind of not having to live my board game life vicariously through kind of other people, so I can see it. But I do see some people that, like, that's what they do. They just, they chill out rather than put Netflix on. They'll sit and watch like a kind of a Twitch stream. In terms of, and this is a question that I do see bounded about the kind of the review groups. What's the best way to approach someone like yourself to work with you? As you know, I mean, that's because that is a big question. Because I'll give you the reasoning behind it. Okay, is I'll get marketing emails from companies that I have approached, and I've said, oh, do you want to collaborate together or do a podcast together? And you sometimes don't hear back, and then I'm on their mailing list. In the UK, that's against the law because I didn't opt in. But what I'm saying is, on the other side of it, when I'm approaching certain companies, there's a certain set I give, kind of like a list of, if I've worked with them before, it's like, well, here's a link to some of the content we've done for you collaborating in the past. Here's the channels, here's a rough idea on the numbers, and this is what we would consider doing for you. But what makes things easier for you? Because you were saying, well, there's obvious shoo-ins, like your Watch It Play to This World. Hi, Rodney. We miss you. We missed him this year because he was going to be at Aircon. I didn't go. But is there kind of like a list that you're going to go down and say, this is really helpful, this helps me decide whether to put you in the kind of the maybe work with column or a definite let's kind of organize something kind of column?
Yeah, so what really helps me specifically, like, for example, today I sent out an email about upcoming games that we have going on or coming out this summer,
which we can't talk about.
And yes, we cannot talk about. There's 3 separate games.
You've already said too much.
Yes. No, and I've gotten replies to the email. It was like, I would love a review copy, nothing else. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
there's 3 separate
Yeah.
games. And now I'm having to reply and ask like which games and like what games have you played
Mhm.
before that you like and all this stuff. So it's putting it's going to sound bad when I say this, but it's putting more work on me, and I'm just having to, ask all the questions instead of getting that information presented to me to like make it easier for me to bring this to my marketing
Yeah.
team. So what's very, very helpful for me is if you know your audience, if you know what you like to play, like for example, if you hate take that or like the take that mechanism or card drafting,
Mhm.
you probably aren't going to like Boss Monster and all of our expansions for that
Yeah.
game. So maybe it's not something that you want to feature on your channel. It's not going to be fun for you to review. Um, Different games that you like, demographics, what you've done in the past, your general numbers, all of that is super helpful. Um, it is really easy for me to bring that to the marketing team and show that to them, and they're like, "Great, love
Yeah.
that," and that's all I need from them to move forward working with you, and makes it easier for me, who is kind of the middleman in this situation, to present that information and make it easier for you to get the game that you want.
Do you read the kind of the reviews and the content that's created? And the reason I asked this is quite simple. There's
Mhm.
no kind of trickery involved. Is that Jamie Stegmaier?
Mhm.
Um, he categorically states that he doesn't read the reviews that people put out about his products. Now, I'm wondering if that is kind of like, is that something you guys do, or are you just, um, what do you do when somebody creates content? Do you have a plan of action? Do you share certain things? Do you kind of review it? Because that's another, okay, that's another, that is like, as we talk, us content creators, we talk. I'm not putting you on the spot or anything, and
Mhm.
this has nothing to do with you, but one of the most frustrating things for anybody that's created kind of media, and people could say, well, what are you complaining about? You're getting a free game. And it's like, yeah, but I got to play it. I've got to think about it. I've got to write about it. I've got to make a
Mhm.
video. I've got to edit that. Then I've got to put it out into my audience. Um,
Mhm.
do you have then a strategy? Say if I did a review of like Call to Adventure Epic Origins, right? If I then
Mhm.
send you the link, do you guys have like a marketing strategy where you say, okay, we'll look at it, and then depending on how we feel about the content, we will post it in certain places, or we'll say thank you and we'll just kind of share it. Do you kind of have a strategy for doing that at all?
Yeah. So I like to share as much as I can because personally, I do my own version of content
Mm,
creation, which is being streaming on Twitch and posting videos on YouTube. So I know the labor of love that it can be to create things. So for personal reasons, I definitely want to, retweet,
yeah,
share, post it on our product pages as much as possible, just so people can get informed on our products. And, if someone is posting an Instagram photo of their very first copy of Boss Monster, even though this is a game that we've had for forever, I'm always going to share it because it's super important. I mean, why not? If you sent a game and somebody is doing the work for you, then yes, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to share
yeah,
it, and I'm going to say thank you for
yeah,
it about 90% of the time. And if I don't, it's because I missed it or because I looked at it, bookmarked it, and forgot about it. And I'm a
yeah.
horrible person for that. So,
No, I don't think, I think it's just, and that's going to sound like a grumpy old ungrateful fool, but I think it is just sometimes, I think, frustrating when
Mhm.
you're kind of like, I've kind of, I've not gone all out, but I've used a lot of kind of time to put stuff together, and then I've gone and shared it. I've shared it with my audience, I really like this, you know, I'm pushing it out there to
Mhm.
everybody, and then I go, "Did you get it?" And it's like, "What? Get what?
What are you talking about?
What did we get? Did you send us something?" It's like, "Yeah," kind of thing. And that, I don't know, I think it's a symbiotic relationship. Do you know what I think it is? I think there needs to be, it's almost like it's not a contract as such, but I think an agreement contract, kind of as to
Mhm.
what are the expectations for both sides of the fence. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes that's missing out between an agreement between, I see what I see is one side saying, I need to reach people who have the potential to spread the word about my product. And then I have other people to say, well, I can potentially spread the word about your product by doing X, Y, and Z. And then it's kind of
Mhm.
like, well, here you go. And they catch it and they do what they do. And then it's kind of left out, but it's kind of hopeful that they maybe share it, or it's hopeful that they like it, kind of thing. And as I
Mhm.
say, going back to, it sounds like I'm like Jamie Stegmaier sycophant, but I am. But there, he's quite. I appreciate what he does because he just quite clearly states, "I'm going to do this, 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 and this is what I expect you to do." And he's quite clear
Right.
and says, "I like. I don't. I'm not. I get why people post on Instagram, but I prefer something that's kind of like there forever, like a YouTube video, like you
Mhm.
said, like a YouTube video or a piece of written content or something that I can refer back to, like put it on
Mhm.
kind of board game, kind of board game geek or something like that."
Right.
You know, but that's the kind of thing. Do you guys look out for content that's on Board Game Geek and stuff like that? Will you scour
Mhm.
kind of like the entries under kind of like Boss Monster and Call to Adventure and look at kind of reviews that have been written which haven't necessarily you've been aware that there was going to be content kind of created on
Mhm.
it?
For sure. I have the Brotherwise notification on Board Game Geek, so every couple of days I go to make sure on things, and even like bad reviews on stuff. I think we had a recent bad review on the Dragon Prince. Like either Maddie or I will comment below it and said, "Thank you for your honest opinion." And thank you for taking time to write this out, even if it's a bad review. Um, and even if people like do a video for
Hmm.
it or like any type of review, I always like to tip them geek gold or something that's like
Or
inconsequential like that, just because it's
or
fun.
tip them off a cliff if it's a bad review.
Yeah, you're not allowed to post negative reviews about our games.
That you can't say that. You but on the same time of it, does it matter? The negative, because, and here's the other I mean, we're really getting into it here, but the other thing that I
Mhm,
find is people use the word honest, and I've written, like, people use on an honest review, and I actually wrote about this, like, and recorded it to say, it's like if people are talking about something as honest as the day is long, then the day would basically be a hurricane full of razors, because there's this whole thing, like an honest review is when, somebody spends 2 minutes saying that they really like, here's the bits I like, and then, as I joked about, an hour and a half as to here's the kind of the bits I hate. But
mhm,
for a company like Brotherwise, who quite literally has distribution across, let's face it, the world with like the Boss Monster
mhm,
product,
mhm.
is a negative review, is it just not reminding people that the game exists, kind of thing?
Kind of, and like from a marketing perspective, a negative review, like somebody's yuck could be somebody's
Yeah,
yum. And so like whenever a big channel like for example, I think Shut Up and Sit Down when I worked at
yeah,
Capstone hated Coffee Traders. I don't think they liked it at all. But I remember talking to somebody about Coffee Traders and they were like, "Oh, I listened to Shut Up and Sit Down's review. They didn't like Coffee Traders for reasons that I usually like
yeah,
games, and that made me go buy the copy." So I negative reviews that are, well researched and honest and talk about specifically what didn't hit for
yeah.
them. I think those are good reviews. Like those are the type of negative reviews I like, because if negative reviews are just like completely negative and not fun to listen to, or maybe just like entertaining. I think there might have been just like a lack of understanding there, and just something else just hit the mark for them. So negative reviews that are honest, thumbs up in my
Yeah,
book.
negative reviews that just like it's just somebody like putting the stuff down, then flipping the table and going, "This is rubbish," and then just walking off. We
Yeah.
don't want that. But no, I mean, when I write, I don't. It's not negative reviews. I've written reviews in the past where I've just went, "Nah, this didn't work for me at all." But I can, and it's not
Mhm.
even a case I can see why other people might like it. It was just like, well, this didn't work for me at all, but this is why I did. This is the things that didn't work for me, and it's really
Mhm.
funny. It's a game that I played with my son, um, and my son really liked it. They thought it was really really good fun. I didn't like it because I was expecting kind of something else. But then when I wrote it in the
Mhm.
review, the company that sent me it said, yeah, well, it's funnily enough, it's not made for late 40-year-old grumpy kind of Scotsman. It's actually made for, kind of kids round about the ages of kind of like 8 to 12 kind of thing. So that kind of, so I
Mhm.
get where you're coming from. And to be perfectly honest, if Shut Up and Sit Down gets sent so many games, I think even the premise of them kind of spending the time to make a video and talk about your game, I think that
Mhm.
probably would have had, like you said, there would have probably been people who would have watched the review and went, "That's everything that I want about a game." I know that
Yeah.
I know that when I think no pun included, when Efka's talked about games that he doesn't like, I have seen comments under the
Mhm.
videos to say, "Yeah, well, I really kind of like that about the game, so that's why I kind of
Yeah.
enjoy it, or that's why I'm kind of considering because it's like
Yeah.
this obvious kind of thing for that."
Right.
Um, Is there now you're working at a game now you're at a games company like in a and it's not having to go leave me alone, Clay, try to get work done.
Yeah.
How is there kind of like ideas for games that you're considering yourself?
Like designing games
Yeah.
for I joke about it. Like, I think I tweeted on my personal account like a couple weeks ago. I had a dream about this weird dexterity game that was like way too similar to cornhole basically,
Mm.
and um I like tweeted about it, and then I was like, Johnny, you need to put me in our Thursday development meetings because our development lead Chris and Johnny have development
Yeah.
meetings for games that they are designing every Thursday. And he was like, wait, you should seriously do this and do your own game design. And I'm like, ugh, I do not have the patience for it. Like maybe in the future, but not now.
It's kind of funny the number of game designers that literally they treat marketing like the call to adventure dragon. They're
Yeah.
literally kind of like, it's like I've been designing games for like the last 15 years, but don't expect me to try and compose a tweet because I just swear at everybody when I do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. You're kind of like, no, I just want to do the market. I don't want to, I,
Yeah.
I don't,
It's like complete
like, it's like, I'm
opposite.
kind of nerd
Well,
adjacent at the moment. I don't want to go kind of
yeah.
like full nerd here, if
Yeah.
that's okay with you, you know?
Yeah. Well, like the weird thing is like at Capstone, I we would have like Zoom calls with Alexander Pfister with his games,
Mm.
and I'd be like, "Oh, like do you want to do anything specific for it, or like is there anything that's special about this game?" And he's like, "No, I just appreciate you even asking and wanting to market this game."
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah. Like why would I not? You're Alexander Pfister." So
But it's the same kind of thing. I mean, in my
yeah.
last 7 years, I mean, and I have interviewed like hundreds of people now, and nobody's stopped me yet. But it is amazing the number of people that have amazing, brilliant, good ideas, and then they're
Mhm.
literally contacting me and they're saying, "I'd like to come onto your show to talk about our Kickstarter." It's like, great. When's the campaign running? We're in our third week. I have
Oh
no idea what I'm
no.
doing. Help, kind of thing. And I have been in that kind of situation where the type of mind that can analytically put together like a spreadsheet on kind of statistics and and things like that, has no idea
Mhm.
how to like put together a kind of an email to just tell people
Mhm.
about, or put a post about how to put stuff together, or
Mhm.
even kind of communicate with kind of like the media people out there, just to say,
Yeah.
look, can you help me? I still see it, and you probably see it if you're on the same kind of Facebook groups, as people who are literally saying, I know at time's tight, but our Kickstarter starts next week. Can somebody kind of do
Yeah.
preview videos? And I'm just like,
Oh
um,
no.
don't know how to tell you this, but you might need to
It's a tight
you
turnaround.
might need to delay it, kind of thing, or until when? Oh, I don't know, December probably.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
no games, just plenty of kind of marketing, pretty much.
Mhm.
Um, out of out of the current, this is the difficult question. Out of the
Oh boy.
range of Brotherwise games that are available, what
Mhm.
is your favorite?
Oh boy. Because there's like different moods. I think, okay, so I'm just gonna go with gut. I'm gonna say Overboss
Okay.
just because it has that perfect amount of nostalgia, and I just I love tile laying games, and it just really hits for me every time we play it, and it's easy to get to the table with my friends. But I would have to say a very close second is Call to Adventure Epic Origins. Just really fun.
Did you was that like part of your induction? You know how when you start your first week at a job, and it's like, here's your laptop, and here's your notepad, and here's your pen, and
Mhm.
here's our entire back catalogue of cardboard. It's like, thanks. I decided to take the subway to come to work now. Now got to get home with literally like, you know, a 300 kilograms of cardboard on me, kind of thing.
Yes.
Is that what did you get?
Yes.
Kind of like the back catalogue kind of given? I guess you would if it was your job, so you could understand kind of like the game.
Uh-huh. So I think my second week working here, Chris asked for my address, and then about a week later, I got two huge boxes full of every single Brotherwise product, including like card sleeves and like neoprene mats and all of that. And so I have a picture of it on my kitchen table of every single
Wow.
game, and I like tried to stack it beautifully to take a picture, but I'm like, there's just too many games here. Like I don't know what to do with
It's
myself.
like it's the whole barbecue day, and everybody brought chicken. Pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Um, because that is it's bad enough here. Kind of like the doorbell went twice today, and it's kind of like, so what's that you've been sent now? And
Yeah.
it's like, it would have been better if the
Yep.
dog brought in kind of like half a dead pigeon or something like that. I'd probably get a better welcoming than why is there yet another kind of brown box
Board
of
game.
colorful boxes that you're going to put on a shelf,
Yes.
you're going to have to know, you're going to have to play, and then you're going to have to persuade us to play them with you, and then you're going to then
Hmm.
disappear for a while while you write about them, kind of thing. So that's kind of fun.
Yep.
um
Am buying all the storage space for these games too. Like the how many shelves I have to buy. Like I have like I think 5 different shelving units now,
wow.
and I'm like, okay, this is turning into an issue, and I need to purge my games again.
It's not like video games. It's like, I can, it's like how many video games you've got. Well, over the years, because of the PlayStation, I've probably got at least a good couple of hundred, through all the free ones
Hmm.
that you get. But they literally
Hmm.
stay inside the PlayStation. I don't
Yes.
have, it's like now for my board game collection, which is in another room and it's in a cupboard. I have to be very, 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 very strict with it. I literally have
Hmm.
kind of like a kind of, if I get like 2 or 3 new ones in, um, it's
Hmm.
like, this is the truth. This is the truth. If it's a review game, sometimes I'll give it away. Even if it's like, unless it's kind of raw, I'm kind of creating a really, really high bar of games that are in my kind of collection, because it's kind of like,
That's the way to do
because
it.
it's kind of like, I've got restricted space, and I said to myself, I'm going to do the kind of what is it, They've got to bring me joy. I've got to look at them. There's some that I keep for nostalgia reasons.
Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo, that's the one. I've got, like, say, for instance, Mice and Mystics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm never going to get rid of Mice and Mystics because I used to play it with my kids when they were, like, really, really young. But also, for some reason, I've got a copy of Seafall. And even though it's a huge, big, bulky box, I'm holding on to this copy of Seafall because I'm an idiot. But it takes up a lot of space, and literally, I could probably get 2 other kind of games, you know. Yeah. But yeah, that's fine. If people have listened along tonight and they want to keep an eye or an ear or whatever on what you guys get up to at Brotherwise and even your good self, where do you exist on the internet webs? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so Brotherwise you can find on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you can subscribe to our mailing list at brotherwisegames.com. Go follow us on TikTok because I've been really working hard on our TikTok, and I'm proud of the video content I'm putting out, and I'm spending way too much time on it. Probably, Johnny, please don't fire me for saying that.
But what we'll do is we'll make sure that we put all the links in the show notes so that we have got notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on, what we're up to, then go to the internet webs and search for We're Not Wizards, and you shall find us in all the different various places. If you like to read writing, if you like to read writing and talk English, go to We're Not Wizards Tabletop.com. If you like to listen to any of the podcasts, go to We're Not Wizards.com. And I also record the reviews that I write. So if you don't want to bother reading the writing that I've written, but you do want to listen to the writing that I've read, then you can listen to them on the podcast feed. But you can find us on Instagram and Twitter and all these like wonderful places. If you've listened along tonight and you've had fun, tell somebody else about us. That's one of the ways that we grow and reach out to more people. If you are a designer, developer, marketer, or just like say, look, I just want to come on to a podcast and talk to somebody to air my grievances or bring joy, then get in contact with us. The email address is magic@wearenotwizards. I am aware of the irony of the email address. That's why I chose it. And if you have enjoyed what you've listened to, go to Apple Podcasts, give us a rating or a review. And as we say, it's 7 years. It's still the same old joke. I'm not going to change it. If you like what you've listened to, go to the Apple Podcasts, don't give us 10 stars because that'll make us big-headed. But at the same time, don't give us 1 star because it'll make us cry. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. We're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average is rather wonderful, rather fantastic, Jillian Ross.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Jillian?
We are not.
And yeah, because everybody else is saying, well, maybe. If you'd listened to the last, I've been steadily frustrated by the number of people who don't understand the entire premise of the show. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Jillian. Say goodbye, Jillian.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and just check out Brotherwise Games. Like, if you want adventures, and the Dragon Prince, actually, you've got to see the minis on these things. It's absolutely fantastic. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.